welcome back to another daily lore. Let's just we're gonna watch this next one and let's just go right to it.
I was constantly mocked by my siblings for being the adopted one even though I wasn't. Last week, my grandmother accidentally revealed a family secret: my siblings are the adopted ones. Now they're demanding I keep their secret while our parents are away, but the DNA test results arrive tomorrow. Growing up in a family of 5 kids, I, 29F, always felt like the
Wait, what?
outlier. I was
Huh? Wouldn't your parents already know? Oh no, the kids. Okay, I gotcha.
the middle child with dark hair and eyes while my siblings were all blonde with blue eyes like our parents. The joke started when I was around 8, my older brother and sister claiming I was adopted because I looked so different. My younger siblings eventually joined in too, making
Mm, Genetics are a tricky thing. Sometimes you get your genetics from your parents, but other times they might have a strong marker. You might have a strong marker of one of your great grandfathers or something. I don't know. Something like that. I think that's how it works. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a geneticist. And I don't know much about genetics like that, so I have no idea. But it's possible for you to not look at anything like your parents, or maybe a little bit, but not really. You mainly look like your uncle or your grandfather or somebody in your family. You'll look more similar to.
a running joke at my expense. My parents never stepped in to stop it, which I now find telling. They just
I actually don't know why they didn't do anything. They thought it was like a harmful joke. What kind of kid wants to hear that as a joke?
smile uncomfortably and change the subject. I grew up believing I simply got unlucky in the
Oh, I see. That's why. It's because they feel guilty. Because they know, obviously, they really know. They know that she's not the adopted one.
genetic lottery, inheriting recessive traits from distant relatives. The adoption jokes continued into adulthood, especially at family gatherings where distant relatives would comment on how different I looked. My siblings would exchange knowing glances and snicker, as if validating their childhood taunts. The teasing intensified after our parents moved to Arizona 3 years ago for retirement, leaving us all in our hometown of Milwaukee. Without their mediating presence, family dinners became unbearable. My siblings would make comments like you should really do one of those ancestry tests to find your real parents, or
I mean, if you do one of those ancestry tests, you would find out. You would really find out. I mean, you should really do one of those ancestry tests. I mean, what? I mean, even if you know for a fact that you think you know for a fact you're from somewhere, I mean, it'll be good to know where exactly you're from. In my opinion, I got an ancestry test. Well, yes, I did, which now I know, but still, it's very good to know where you're from or where you originated from, where your parents originated from, and your family.
don't you want to know which country you're really from? I would laugh it off, but each comment stung deeper than they knew. Last year, I actually did take a DNA test, partly out of curiosity and partly to shut them up once and for all. The results showed I was primarily of Italian and Greek descent, which aligned with our family's known heritage. I proudly presented these findings at Christmas dinner, hoping to end the
That won't do anything. That would just tell them you're just from the same country. Wait, she said what?
test, partly out of curiosity and partly to shut them up once and for all. The results showed I was primarily of Italian and Greek descent.
Italian and Greek. If when I think of Italian, I think Italians have either black hair or blonde hair. Yeah, or maybe Greek is black hair. I'm not sure. One of them has black hair. Mainly Greek. I think Greek is the one that would normally black hair. Italians usually blonde hair. I would say not all the time. Some Italians probably have black hair as well. Same thing for Greek, but I believe I believe a traditional Greek person would probably have black hair. I'm not 100%. I'm not a. I don't know anything about any other country, so I don't know.
which aligned with our family's known heritage. I pre- I left early that night, wondering why I even bothered trying to prove myself to them. I've always been closest to my grandmother, my mother's mother, who lives in a nursing home across town. She's 92 now, her mind increasingly slipping between past and present. I visit her every Sunday without fail, even when she doesn't remember who I am. My siblings rarely visit, claiming they're too busy with their own families and careers, though they always find time for weekend getaways and golf outings. Last Sunday began like any other visit. I brought Nana her favorite Italian cookies and fresh flowers. She was having
Hmm.
one of her better days, immediately recognizing me and asking about work. We chatted about my job as a school librarian, my recent breakup, and various family updates. Then, as I was showing her pictures from my siblings' recent group vacation, which I wasn't invited to, something shifted in her expression. She took my hand, suddenly serious, and asked why I wasn't in the photos. I explained they hadn't invited me, trying to keep my tone light. Nana's eyes narrowed as she studied the blonde heads in the pictures. She patted my dark hair and said something that turned my world upside down. "You're the only true Rossi. You're the only one with our blood. Those ones, they came later."
She told her something that was supposed to be a secret, I guess. Oh shit. They came later. Well, such a revelation inside of a hospital or inside of a hospice room. I don't know where they. I forget where she said they were.
I thought she was confused, mixing up generations or relationships as she sometimes does. I gently tried to correct her, explaining that we were all Rosses, all siblings raised by the same parents. Nana became agitated, insisting more forcefully that I was different, not because I was adopted, but because I wasn't. According to Nana, after my mother gave birth to me, she suffered complications that left her unable to have more children. My parents were devastated, having always dreamed of a large family. 3 years after I was born, they adopted a brother-sister pair of toddlers from a distant cousin who couldn't care for them. 2 years after that, they adopted another pair of siblings through an agency. All four of my siblings were adopted, while I was the only biological child. I sat there stunned, unable to process what I was hearing. All those years of being mocked for being the adopted one when in reality, I was the only biological child. The stunning
Yep.
irony would have been funny if it weren't so heartbreaking. Nana must have seen my shock because she suddenly looked horrified, realizing she'd revealed a deeply held family secret. "They don't know?" she asked, clutching my hand. "Your parents never told them?" "Apparently not. And they'd never told me either." I drove home in a daze, my mind replaying countless family moments.
Hmm. Of course, they never told him. They were probably going to keep that a secret for the rest of their lives until they die, until you got curious. But I mean, I don't. You will find out, of course, if you do a uh, test thingy. I mean, no, family test is like what? I don't know the percentage, but I'd say between 90% correct and higher. It's has a 10% chance probably to be wrong, which is very low chance to be wrong, but it is still a possibility it could be wrong. But yeah, in this case, it's probably not. Surprising, I don't know why they're not telling them. I don't think they have the heart to tell them. That's probably why.
Now cast in an entirely new light. The way my parents would tense up when adoption was mentioned. The careful way birth stories were never discussed in detail. The family photo albums that mysteriously started when I was 3, with only a handful of baby pictures of me and none of my siblings as infants. I spent the next 2 days in emotional turmoil, unsure what to do with this information. Part of me wanted to immediately confront my siblings, to throw their years of taunting back in their faces. Another part felt protective of them.
Yeah, that won't do anything. That would just be your anger talking, honestly. But as an older sibling, obviously, which I'm the youngest, so But as the older sibling, obviously you're gonna feel protective, so I don't think you're gonna do it that way. You might. I mean, so far it's like 4 minutes in, so maybe.
This wasn't their fault, and learning the truth would be devastating. I tried calling my parents in Arizona, but they were on a 2-week cruise with limited connectivity. On Wednesday night, my oldest brother organized an emergency family meeting after visiting Nana. Apparently, she'd been distraught about potentially breaking a promise, and in her confusion, had told him everything she'd told me. He was furious, not about the decades of deception, but about the secret being exposed. The meeting at his house was tense. All 4 of my siblings sat across from me, unified in their shock and anger. They weren't angry at our parents for keeping this monumental secret, they were angry at me for somehow causing its revelation. My oldest sister insisted we all agree to never mention this again, to protect our parents from knowing their secret was out. My younger siblings nodded in agreement, casting blame-filled glances my way. When I pointed out the irony of them mocking me my entire life for being adopted when they were the ones who actually were, my oldest brother dismissed it as just jokes that I was too sensitive about.
Shut the fuck up. Oh my god, I'm sorry. No. That was the actual reaction. Oh my god. That's such hip, hmm, hypocrisy. My god. Mm, it's not jokes. Like, seriously, it's not. If she makes the same jokes now, what would you say?
There was no acknowledgement of the pain they'd caused, no apology for the years of teasing. Instead, they were demanding my complicity in maintaining a lie that had made me feel like an outsider in my own family. I left without agreeing to anything, overwhelmed by both the revelation and their reaction. That night, I made a decision. When our parents had initially settled in Arizona, they'd given each of us a small fireproof lockbox containing important family documents, birth certificates, social security cards, and other vital papers they thought we should have. I had never opened mine, simply stored.
I see. So, obviously, all the information would tell you exactly everything.
It in my closet. Now, I carefully opened it, finding exactly what I expected, my original birth certificate showing my parents as my biological parents. What I didn't expect was finding a sealed envelope addressed to me in my mother's handwriting, with instructions to open it when the time comes. Inside was a letter explaining everything, how they'd always planned to tell everyone the truth when we were old enough to understand, but as years passed, the right moment never seemed to come. The longer they waited, the harder it became to reveal the truth. The letter expressed their regret and asked for my understanding and forgiveness. Also in the envelope was a DNA.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Right. Okay. Uh-huh. Seriously. Oh, wow.
A test my mother had apparently taken secretly last year, after I had shared my own results at Christmas. She'd been planning to finally reveal everything, the letter explained, but lost her nerve when my siblings dismissed DNA testing as unreliable. Instead, she'd placed the results in my lockbox, perhaps hoping I'd find them eventually. Yesterday, I submitted the sample for my own DNA kit, and the results arrive tomorrow. I've invited all my siblings to my house for dinner, telling them we need to discuss how to handle this situation with our parents. They don't know about the letter or the DNA test, or that I've already spoken with our parents on the cruise ship's satellite phone. After 29 years of feeling like the family outsider, of being mocked for being different.
Yeah, I don't understand why you would think that your parents won't tell you that type of thing. I mean, it's only right that if you're an adopted kid, it's only right that you know that you're adopted. It is only right, obviously. You don't want to keep that as a secret forever. That's just, in my opinion, that's not, that unless some scenario happens. Otherwise, it's just not cool to keep that as a secret.
I'm about to turn the tables. Not out of revenge, but because truth and honesty matter. My siblings deserve to know their real history, just as I deserve to know mine. Our parents are flying home early to be here for the revelation, agreeing that this secret has done enough damage. Tomorrow, we'll all face our true family story together. I don't expect apologies from my siblings for the years of teasing, they're too proud for that. But I do hope that once the shock wears off, we can rebuild our relationships on a foundation of truth rather than secrets and mockery. And perhaps they'll finally understand why those harmless jokes about me being adopted were never funny to me. Because sometimes the family we're born into isn't exactly what it seems. And sometimes the outsider was the only one who truly belonged all along.
The big stuff.
So true, sometimes the outsider is the only one that truly belongs. Sometimes, not all the time, it's just case to case, but sometimes, you know, just because you look different doesn't mean you're, doesn't mean you're not family, or it doesn't mean doesn't mean you're any less special than anyone else. I mean, it's gonna be hard to hear something every single day for your whole life. Even if one person says something, it's gonna be hard to keep that as hope because, you know, when people keep saying something negative to you, you might blow it off at first, but if they keep saying it over and over, and then more people join in, they say it over and over again, unless you're stubborn, you might actually start believing them, I guess. Uh, the mind works mysteriously. You might somehow subconsciously believe them, even though you might not actually believe them. Uh, like you're thinking to yourself that I don't need to hear this, you know, or something like that, and then subconsciously, internally, you're actually thinking whatever they're saying. But I was constantly mocked by my siblings for being the adopted one, even though I wasn't last week. And that was Dead Spies Restore React. Hope you have a nice day, good evening, a nice night, and a good morning. Okay, bye.